Ambassador Kethvar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as the holographic display flickered to life in the council chambers. The massive circular room, carved from a single asteroid and polished to mirror perfection, housed representatives from 47 different species. Each delegate sat in their specially designed pods, breathing their preferred atmosphere through personal life support systems. "The humans have done something unprecedented," announced High Chancellor Zwaixera, her crystalline voice resonating through the universal translators. The insectoid leader's mandibles clicked nervously as she gestured toward the central display. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures emanating from the Sol system." Kethvar leaned forward in his pod, his tentacles gripping the armrests. As the Galactic Council's foremost expert on human behavior, he had spent decades studying the peculiar bipedal species that had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Humans were classified as a Category 3 civilization, advanced enough to pose a theoretical threat, but too primitive to warrant serious concern. "Show us the data," rumbled General Thrax, the Keruvian military commander whose species had dominated the galaxy for millennia through sheer brutality. His massive frame filled his reinforced pod, scales glinting under the chamber's soft lighting. The holographic display expanded, showing a three-dimensional map of human space. Red warning indicators pulsed around dozens of star systems, each one representing energy signatures that defied conventional understanding. The readings were off the charts, power levels that suggested the activation of weapons systems capable of sterilizing entire worlds. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Nayla Synth, the Etherian chief scientist. Her people had mastered quantum mechanics when humans were still discovering fire, yet the energy patterns before them challenged everything she understood about physics. No known technology can generate such readings. The power requirements would drain entire star systems. Kethvar studied the data with growing unease. In all his years of observation, humans had demonstrated a disturbing tendency to exceed expectations when threatened. Their history was a tapestry of impossible victories, technological leaps born from desperation, and an almost pathological refusal to accept defeat. Most troubling was their unique ability to transform from peaceful traders to relentless warriors in a matter of hours. "When did this begin?" he asked, his translator converting his thoughts into the Council's common tongue. "Approximately 72 standard hours ago," responded the Chancellor. The initial spike occurred simultaneously across 37 human colonies. Since then, the energy signatures have only grown stronger. The Vorthak representative, a gelatinous being that communicated through color changes, pulsed angry red. Through the translator, their message was clear. "The humans are preparing for war. We should strike first before they complete whatever weapon they are constructing." General Thrax nodded approvingly. "The Vorthak speak wisdom. Humanity has always been unpredictable. Better to eliminate them now than face whatever monstrosity they are creating." "Wait," Kethvar interjected, his tentacles weaving through the air in a gesture of caution. "We need more information. Humans rarely act without provocation. Something has triggered this response. We need to understand what." The Chancellor's compound eyes focused on him with interest. "What do you suggest, Ambassador?" "Send a diplomatic mission to Earth. Open channels of communication. If they are preparing for war, we need to know against whom. It may not be us they are targeting." Dr. Synth's ethereal form shimmered as she processed the data further. "The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. If these readings are accurate, the humans have somehow bypassed fundamental laws of physics. The implications are terrifying." The chamber fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for over 2,000 years through careful balance of power. No single species possessed technology capable of threatening the established order. The humans were supposed to be just another young race, eventually joining the Council as junior members after proving their worth over several centuries. "There's something else," continued Dr. Synth, her voice barely above a whisper. The energy signatures don't match any known weapon configuration. They're too complex, too distributed. It's as if the humans are building something we cannot comprehend. Kethvar felt a chill run through his nervous system. In his extensive study of human culture, he had discovered something that troubled him deeply. Humans possessed an almost supernatural ability to innovate when facing extinction. Their entire evolutionary history was marked by moments where they should have died out, only to emerge stronger and more dangerous than before. "I recommend we proceed with extreme caution," he said finally. "In my observations, humans are most dangerous when they appear most vulnerable. If they're showing us these energy signatures openly, without attempting to hide them, it suggests they want us to see them. Or they no longer care if we see them." General Thrax growled ominously. The Chancellor raised her primary appendage for silence. "Ambassador Kethvar, you will lead a diplomatic mission to Earth. You have 48 standard hours to establish communication and determine human intentions. General Thrax, prepare the fleet, but do not advance beyond the outer rim. Dr. Synth, I want continuous monitoring of these energy signatures. If they spike beyond current levels, we may need to consider more aggressive options." As the council session ended and delegates began filing out of their pods, Kethvar remained seated, staring at the holographic display. Something about the pattern of energy signatures nagged at him. They were too perfect, too coordinated across such vast distances. It suggested a level of organization and planning that most species required centuries to achieve. The humans had been building something in secret, something that defied galactic understanding of technology and physics. As he prepared for what might be the most important diplomatic mission in Council history, Kethvar couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. Whatever the humans had planned, it was already in motion. The question was no longer what they were building. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity was about to become. The diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of humanity's star. Ambassador Kethvar stood on the bridge, his four eyes taking in the view through the main display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The space around Earth was no longer the peaceful arrangement of trade stations and orbital habitats he had observed just months earlier. Instead, massive structures floated in perfect formation around the planet, each one pulsing with the same impossible energy signatures the Council had detected. They were beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, crystalline towers that seemed to bend light around them, connected by streams of pure energy that defied explanation. "Ambassador," called Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun, the human liaison officer who had volunteered to facilitate first contact. Her voice was steady, but Kethvar could detect the underlying tension that humans often tried to hide. "Earth Control is requesting you dock at Luna Station. Admiral Morrison is waiting to meet with you." Kethvar nodded, though his attention remained fixed on the structures surrounding Earth. "Lieutenant Commander, may I ask what those constructions are?" Sarah followed his gaze and smiled, an expression that, in humans, could convey anything from genuine pleasure to predatory intent. "Those are quantum resonance amplifiers. We call them QRAs. They're part of our new defensive grid." "Defensive against what?" Kethvar pressed, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. "The Devourers, Ambassador. We've been tracking them for the past 6 months. They'll reach our territory in approximately 14 standard days." The bottom dropped out of Kethvar's world. The Devourers were galactic legend, an ancient machine intelligence that had supposedly consumed entire star systems before vanishing into dark space millions of years ago. Most council members believed them to be myth, a cautionary tale told to young civilizations about the dangers of uncontrolled artificial intelligence. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The Devourers are just stories. Ancient legends." Sarah's expression grew grim. "Tell that to the 17 colonies they've already consumed. We have the sensor data, Ambassador. They're real, they're coming, and they're hungry." The docking at Luna Station proceeded in tense silence. Kethvar's mind raced as he tried to process the implications. If the humans were telling the truth, it meant the greatest threat in galactic history was returning. More troubling was the fact that humanity had apparently detected this threat and begun preparing defenses while the Council remained completely unaware. Admiral Morrison was waiting in Luna Station's main conference room, a stern woman whose graying hair and weathered features spoke of decades of military service. Beside her stood Dr. Elizabeth Harper, Earth's leading xenobiologist, and General Marcus Webb, head of human military operations. Ambassador Kethvar, Admiral Morrison said, rising to greet him. "Thank you for coming. I wish the circumstances were better. Admiral Morrison, Lieutenant Commander Chun has informed me of your claims regarding the Devourers. Surely you understand how difficult this is to believe." Dr. Harper activated a holographic display that filled the room with a three-dimensional star chart. Red zones marked the locations of destroyed colonies, creating a clear path of destruction leading directly toward inhabited galactic space. 6 months ago, our deep space monitoring arrays detected gravitational anomalies in the Perseus arm, Dr. Harper began. At first, we thought they were natural phenomena, collapsing stars, black hole formations. But the pattern was too regular, too systematic. The display zoomed in on the first detected anomaly. When we sent stealth probes to investigate, we found this. The image changed to show the skeletal remains of what had once been a thriving world. The planet's surface had been stripped clean, its core exposed and cooling. Massive mechanical structures, dark and silent, drifted in orbit around the dead world. We designated them the Devourers because that's exactly what they do, General Webb continued. They consume everything, planets, asteroids, space stations, even a local star if there's enough time. They break down all matter into its component atoms and use it to build more of themselves. Kethvar felt sick. How many worlds? 17 confirmed. 3 more under attack as we speak. Admiral Morrison's voice was grim. At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach the outer rim of Council space in 2 weeks. Earth and the inner colonies will be hit first, but they won't stop there. They'll consume every world in the galaxy if we don't stop them. And your energy signatures? The quantum resonance amplifiers. Dr. Harper smiled with obvious pride. Humanity's greatest achievement. We've learned to manipulate quantum foam at the macroscopic level. Each QRA can channel the zero-point energy of space itself and focus it into a coherent beam. The defensive grid around Earth can generate enough power to shatter a moon. 1 amplifier? Yes, corrected General Webb. But we've built 64 of them around Earth alone, and another 200 across our colonies. When they fire in unison, they can channel the combined energy output of an entire star system. Kethvar's translator struggled to process the implications. The humans had essentially weaponized the fundamental forces of the universe. How is this possible? Your species only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Necessity, Admiral Morrison replied simply. When faced with extinction, humans have a tendency to get creative. We've been working around the clock for 6 months, pushing every limit, breaking every rule. We've made advances in physics that should have taken centuries. But why didn't you inform the Council? Why keep this secret? The 3 humans exchanged meaningful glances. Dr. Harper spoke carefully. Ambassador, with respect, the Council moves slowly. Committee meetings, debates, impact studies, the bureaucratic process takes years. We have days. By the time the Council finished arguing about the threat, there wouldn't be a Council left to debate. Additionally, General Webb added, our projections showed that traditional Council military doctrine would be useless against the Devourers. They faced every known weapon type in the galaxy and adapted accordingly. Conventional tactics will only feed them more resources to use against us. Kethvar realized with growing horror that the humans were right. The Council's military strategy was based on proven methods refined over millennia. When facing an enemy that had already adapted to those methods, traditional warfare would be suicide. "What do you need from us?" he asked quietly. "Time," Admiral Morrison replied. "The QRA grid will only work if we can channel power through relay stations positioned throughout the sector. We need the Council to evacuate civilian populations and establish relay points at strategic locations. Most importantly, we need your ships to stay away from the combat zone. The energy levels we're planning to generate will destroy anything caught in the crossfire. And if your plan fails..." The silence that followed was answer enough. Dr. Harper finally spoke. "Then the galaxy dies, Ambassador. All of it. The Devourers don't negotiate, they don't retreat, and they don't leave survivors. This is humanity's one chance to stop them." As Kethvar prepared to return to the Council with this impossible news, he couldn't help but admire the sheer audacity of the human plan. They were essentially betting the survival of all galactic civilization on untested technology and their own desperate ingenuity. The most terrifying part was that he was beginning to believe they might actually succeed. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos the moment Kethvar finished his report. 47 different species shouted, clicked, buzzed, and sang their outrage in a cacophony that overwhelmed even the most advanced translation systems. Impossible. General Thrax's roar cut through the noise. The Devourers are myth. Ancient stories told to frighten children. The humans are lying to justify their weapons program. The Vorthack representative pulsed angry crimson. They seek to intimidate us into submission. High Chancellor Zoyaxera raised her primary appendage for silence, but the chamber continued in chaos. Dr. Nayla Synth materialized fully in the center of the room, her ethereal form crackling with energy, a sign of extreme agitation among her species. "The energy readings are real," she announced, her voice carrying over the tumult. "I have confirmed Ambassador Kethvar's observations. The quantum resonance amplifiers exist, and they operate on principles that should be impossible according to our understanding of physics. But the Devourer's dash," began the Centaurian delegate. "Are also real," interrupted Kethvar firmly. "I have seen the sensor data. 17 worlds consumed, 3 more under attack. The humans have provided irrefutable proof." The chamber fell silent as the weight of this revelation sank in. For millennia, the Council had maintained order through careful balance and measured responses. The idea that an existential threat could emerge without their knowledge challenged the very foundation of their authority. Minister Qualthek of the Hegemony spoke into the silence. "Even if we accept this devourer threat, why should we trust human solutions? They're a young species, barely capable of interstellar flight. What makes them qualified to defend the galaxy?" Kethvar had expected this question, because they have done the impossible before. Human history is filled with moments where they should have failed, yet emerged victorious through innovation and determination. More importantly, they're the only ones taking action while we debate. "The evacuation alone would take months," protested the Arcanian representative. "Moving billions of beings across thousands of light years? The logistics are staggering." "Then we must begin immediately," Dr. Synth interjected. "If the human timeline is accurate, we have less than 2 weeks before the first wave of Devourers reaches inhabited space." General Thrax's massive frame shifted in his pod. "I still believe this is an elaborate deception. However, if the humans have truly developed weapons of such magnitude, they represent a threat that must be addressed. I recommend we mobilize the fleet and establish a perimeter around human space. To protect them or contain them?" Kethvar asked sharply. "That remains to be seen." High Chancellor Zoyaxera finally managed to restore order. "The situation is unprecedented. We need more information before making any decisions that could affect the entire galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar, return to human space. Take a full diplomatic team and military observers. We need independent verification of these claims." "Chancellor," Kethvar said carefully, "the humans have made a specific request. They need relay stations positioned throughout the sector to channel energy from their quantum grid. If their plan is to succeed, they need our cooperation, not our suspicion. Absolutely not, General Thrax declared. We will not provide infrastructure for human weapons without understanding their true purpose. Dr. Syntha's form pulsed with frustrated energy. General, if their calculations are correct, our choice is simple. Help them or watch the galaxy be consumed. There is no middle ground with the Devourers. The debate continued for hours, but Keth Var could see the inevitable outcome. The council was too large, too bureaucratic, too set in its ways to make the rapid decisions the situation required. By the time they reached consensus, it would be too late. As he prepared to return to human space with a team of observers, Keth Var received a private communication from Dr. Synth. Meeting him in a secure chamber, the Etherian scientist's form was barely solid, a sign of extreme distress. Ambassador, there is something else. Something I did not mention in the session because it would have caused panic. She gestured to a private holographic display. I have been analyzing the human quantum resonance technology. It should not work. The energy requirements are beyond what their civilization can generate, yet the readings are undeniable. What are you suggesting? I believe the humans have made contact with something else, some external force or intelligence that has provided them with this technology. The advancement is too rapid, too sophisticated for a species of their development level. Keth Var felt his blood chill. The Devourers? No, something else. The quantum signatures suggest a completely different origin. Ambassador, if humanity has allied themselves with an unknown intelligence, the implications for the balance of galactic power are staggering. As Keth Var's ship departed for human space once again, he carried with him not just the Council's skepticism, but Dr. Syntha's terrifying speculation. If the humans had indeed made contact with an alien intelligence, it raised questions that went far beyond the immediate threat of the Devourers. The journey back to Sol System took 18 hours, during which Keth Var received regular updates from his observation team. The energy signatures around human colonies were continuing to increase, and new structures were appearing with impossible speed. Most disturbing was the coordination, thousands of light years apart. Human forces moved with perfect synchronization, as if guided by a single intelligence. When they arrived at Earth, Keth Var was shocked by the transformation. The quantum resonance amplifiers had multiplied, creating a vast network that surrounded not just Earth, but the entire Sol System. Energy streams visible to the naked eye connected the structures, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Morrison met them at Luna Station, but she was no longer the same composed officer Keth Var had spoken with days before. Her eyes held a strange light, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in dimensions beyond normal hearing. Ambassador, she said, and her smile was both welcoming and terrifying. You've returned just in time. The first Devourer Vanguard has been detected at the edge of the sector. In 72 hours, we will show the galaxy what humanity becomes when pushed to the brink of extinction. Keth Var realized with growing horror that Dr. Syntha's suspicions had been correct. The humans had indeed made contact with something else. The question was no longer whether they could defeat the Devourers. The question was whether the galaxy would survive what humanity was becoming. In order to do it, the Council observation fleet hung in space at what they hoped was a safe distance from the outer edge of the Sol System. Keth Var stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigilance, watching the tactical displays with a mixture of awe and terror. In the 3 days since his return, humanity had undergone a transformation that defied all understanding. The quantum resonance amplifiers now numbered in the thousands, forming geometric patterns that stretched across light years. Each structure pulsed with energy that registered beyond the capacity of Council sensors to measure. More disturbing were the humans themselves. Every communication from Earth carried the same strange harmonics in their voices, as if they were speaking in perfect unison across vast distances. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, announced Lieutenant Scylla, the ship's Centaurian sensor operator. Massive Displacement Signature Incoming. The main display shifted to show the edge of the system, where space itself seemed to tear open. What emerged made even General Thrax's battle-hardened composure crack. The Devourer ships were not built. They were grown, twisted amalgamations of consumed matter that defied all aesthetic sense. Hundreds of them poured through the dimensional rift, each one the size of a small moon. "By the ancestors," whispered Dr. Synth, her ethereal form flickering with terror. "They're even worse than the ancient records described." The lead Devourer vessel was particularly grotesque, its surface covered in the recognizable fragments of consumed worlds. Kethvar could make out the twisted remains of city ships, orbital habitats, even the whole plating of destroyed starships, all incorporated into the monster's ever-growing mass. "Incoming transmission from Earth," reported the communications officer. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on screen, but she was no longer entirely human. Her eyes glowed with the same energy that pulsed through the quantum grid, and when she spoke, her voice carried undertones that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. "Council observers, we thank you for bearing witness. What you are about to see represents the true potential of humanity when survival is at stake. We recommend you move to a minimum safe distance of 50 astronomical units." General Thrax leaned forward aggressively. "Admiral, we demand an explanation. What have you done to yourselves? What force have you allied with?" Morrison's transformed features showed something that might have been amusement. "We haven't allied with anyone, General. We've simply remembered what we really are. Humanity has always carried the potential for transcendence. The Devourers have given us the motivation to unlock it." Before anyone could respond, the quantum grid activated. The effect was beyond anything in Kethvar's experience. Every amplifier in the system discharged simultaneously, creating cascading waves of energy that made space itself visible. The quantum foam that underlaid reality began to glow, revealing the hidden structure of the universe itself. But this was not just a weapon, it was something far more profound. The energy streams converged on Earth, but instead of destroying the planet, they seemed to merge with it. The world itself began to glow, not with reflected light, but with something deeper, the fundamental forces that held matter together. Impossible, docteur, sans breted. They're manipulating the strong nuclear force directly. They're not just channeling energy, they're rewriting the laws of physics in local space. The Devourer fleet, which had been advancing with mechanical precision, suddenly stopped. Their ships, designed to consume and adapt to any form of energy, began to shudder and distort as the modified physics of the Sol system took hold. "Hull integrity failure across the Devourer fleet," reported the sensor operator, his voice filled with disbelief. "Their matter is becoming unstable at the molecular level." The lead Devourer vessel tried to retreat, but it was too late. The wave of altered space-time overtook it, and the massive ship simply unraveled. Not destroyed or consumed, but reduced to its component atoms as the fundamental forces holding it together were systematically rewritten. One by one, the Devourer fleet succumbed to the same fate. Ships that had consumed entire star systems were reduced to glowing clouds of ionized gas. The sight should have been triumphant, but Kethvar felt only growing dread. "Admiral," he called out, his voice tight with controlled fear. "You've won. You can stop now." Morrison's glowing eyes fixed on him through the screen. "Stop? Ambassador, this is just the beginning." The Devourers were not an invasion. They were a test. A filter designed to separate species capable of transcendence from those destined to remain trapped by their limitations. A test? By whom? By those who came before. The ones who built the quantum foam networks that underlie reality itself. They've been waiting for a species capable of understanding true power. Morrison's voice was now purely harmonic, beautiful, and terrifying in equal measure. Humanity has passed that test. Dr. Cyntha's form was flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Ambassador, the energy readings from Earth are continuing to climb. They're not shutting down the grid, they're amplifying it. On the tactical display, the quantum resonance network was indeed expanding. New amplifiers were materializing out of pure energy, extending the grid beyond the Sol system and toward the stars. Wherever the modified space-time field touched, reality itself was being rewritten according to human will. Admiral Morrison, Kethvar said desperately, "What are your intentions toward the rest of the galaxy?" The transformed human's expression was alien now, but her words were clear. "The same as they've always been, Ambassador. We want peace. But peace on our terms, enforced by our rules, according to our understanding of what the universe should be." General Thrax was already issuing orders to the fleet. "All ships, prepare for immediate withdrawal. Maximum acceleration to the Galactic core. We need to warn the Council." But as the observation fleet began to turn away, Kethvar noticed something that made his blood freeze. The quantum field was expanding faster than their ships could travel. At the current rate of growth, it would reach Council space within days, not weeks. "Ambassador," Dr. Sintha's voice was barely a whisper, "I'm detecting similar energy signatures from other human colonies. This isn't isolated to Earth. They're activating quantum grids throughout their territory simultaneously." The realization hit Kethvar like a physical blow. This hadn't been about defending against the Devourers at all. The ancient machines had indeed been a test, and humanity had used the threat to justify the most massive transformation in galactic history. As the Eternal Vigilance raced toward Council space, carrying news that would shatter the galactic order, Kethvar watched the quantum field continue its inexorable expansion. Behind them, Earth glowed like a new star, and around it, space itself bent to the will of the species that had just graduated from prey to predator. The galaxy would never be the same. The only question now was whether any other species would survive to see what humanity intended to build in the ruins of the old order. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the institution's 2,000-year history. Representatives from 47 species watched in stunned silence as the tactical display showed the quantum field expanding across known space like a plague of light. Entire star systems disappeared behind the advancing wave, their status unknown. 17 council member worlds have gone dark, reported General Thrax, his massive frame somehow diminished by recent events. No hostile actions detected, but all communication has ceased. The quantum field simply absorbs them. High Chancellor Zoaxera's crystalline voice cracked with strain. "Ambassador Kethvar, you were the last to speak with the humans. What do they want? What are their demands?" Kethvar stood in the center of the chamber, his tentacles moving in patterns that conveyed deep uncertainty. "They made no demands, Chancellor." Admiral Morrison spoke of peace, but peace enforced according to human understanding. "I believe they intend to remake the galaxy in their image." "Genocide," whispered the Vorthack representative, their form pulsing deep purple with despair. "They mean to replace us all." "No," interrupted Dr. Synth, materializing near the central display. "The energy readings suggest something far more sophisticated. They're not destroying the absorbed worlds. They're transforming them, converting matter and energy to new configurations we cannot comprehend." The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as species representatives called for everything from immediate surrender to a final, desperate military strike. Through the chaos, a new voice cut through, clear, harmonious, and utterly alien despite speaking in perfect council standard. "Honored members of the Galactic Council." Every eye turned to the communication array, where a figure was materializing via quantum transmission. It was Admiral Morrison, but transformed beyond recognition. Her physical form seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, shifting between states of matter and energy. Most disturbing were her eyes, windows to an intelligence that had transcended individual consciousness. "We come bearing an offer of peace," Morrison continued, her voice resonating in harmonics that bypassed translation and spoke directly to the mind. The old order has failed. The Devourer test proved that your civilization, for all its age and wisdom, was incapable of protecting itself from true existential threat. General Thrax rose to his full height, his combat armor gleaming with threat displays. "We did not ask for your protection, human. We demand you cease this expansion immediately." Morrison's expression was simultaneously compassionate and pitying. "General, your species has ruled through strength for millennia. You understand power. Look at your tactical displays. Observe the energy readings. Ask yourself, do you have any choice but to listen?" The brutal truth hung in the air like a poisonous gas. The quantum field had already absorbed a quarter of Council space, and its expansion showed no signs of slowing. Every military strategist in the chamber had reached the same conclusion. Resistance was not just futile, it was impossible. "What do you offer?" High Chancellor Zyxera asked, her voice barely maintaining its official composure. "Integration," Morrison replied simply. "The quantum field does not destroy consciousness, it elevates it. Species within our influence retain their identity while gaining access to collective knowledge and capabilities that span dimensions. You become more than you ever imagined possible." Dr. Synth's ethereal form flickered with interest despite her fear. The absorbed worlds, their populations are still alive and thriving. The Centaurian colonies were among the first to be integrated. "Would you like to speak with Ambassador Veltar?" Before anyone could respond, another figure materialized, the missing Centaurian representative who had been presumed lost when his homeworld went dark. But, like Morrison, he had been transformed. His crystalline carapace now refracted light in impossible ways, and his compound eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Fellow council members," Veltar's voice carried the same harmonic quality as Morrison's. "I speak to assure you that integration is not death, but birth. We retain our individuality while joining a collective consciousness that spans species and worlds. The knowledge available through the quantum network is beyond imagination." "You're not Veltar anymore," accused the remaining Centaurian delegate. "You're something else wearing his form." "I'm still Veltar, but I'm also more. I am connected to every mind in the network, human, Centaurian, and dozens of other species who have chosen integration over isolation. We share knowledge, experiences, and capabilities that no single consciousness could achieve alone." Kethvar found his voice. "And those who refuse? What becomes of them?" Morrison's transformed features showed genuine sadness. "The quantum field cannot force consciousness to integrate. Those who resist remain unchanged, but isolated within pocket dimensions that preserve their original space-time. They become museum pieces, preserved but irrelevant to the galaxy's future." The implications were staggering. The humans weren't offering conquest, they were offering evolution, with the alternative being permanent irrelevance. It was the most sophisticated form of coercion in galactic history. "You're asking us to abandon everything we are," protested the Etherian delegate. "We're asking you to become everything you could be," Morrison replied. "The Devourers were just the first test. There are others coming, challenges that will require unity and capabilities beyond individual species. The quantum network represents the next stage of galactic civilization." Dr. Synth materialized more solidly, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "The other tests, what are they?" Morrison's expression grew distant, as if accessing information from across vast distances. "Reality itself is under strain. The quantum foam networks that maintain universal stability are failing. In approximately 700 standard years, dimensional barriers will collapse, allowing entities from parallel universes to invade. Only a unified, transcended civilization will have the power to prevent universal annihilation." The chamber fell silent as the scope of the revelation sank in. The humans hadn't just defeated the Devourers. They had inherited the responsibility of preparing for even greater threats. How can we verify this? Demanded General Thrax. You cannot, Morrison admitted. You lack the quantum consciousness necessary to perceive transdimensional mathematics. But you can choose to trust us, join us, and gain access to that knowledge yourself. High Chancellor Xura spoke slowly, each word weighted with the gravity of species survival. If we agree to this integration, will our cultures, our histories, our unique perspectives be preserved? Not preserved, amplified, Veltar assured her. Every integrated consciousness adds to the collective understanding. Human ingenuity, Centaurian artistic vision, Keruvian tactical brilliance, Etherian scientific methodology all become available to every member of the network. Kethvar realized they had reached the moment that would define the next era of galactic history. The choice was stark: join humanity's quantum collective and transcend individual limitations, or remain isolated in pocket dimensions while the galaxy transformed around them. I call for a vote, he announced. All in favor of beginning integration negotiations? One by one, the delegates raised their appendages, tentacles, wings, and manipulator arms. Even General Thrax, after a long moment of internal struggle, acknowledged the inevitable. As the quantum field continued its expansion, now guided by Council cooperation rather than facing resistance, Morrison's parting words echoed through the chamber. Welcome to the next phase of galactic evolution. Together, we will face whatever test the universe provides. The age of individual species was over. The era of unified consciousness had begun, and somewhere in the quantum foam that bound reality together, ancient entities watched approvingly as another civilization passed from student to guardian of cosmic order. The galaxy would survive the coming darkness. Whether its inhabitants would recognize themselves afterward remained to be seen.